Welcome to Marathon Champions, the podcast where running legends Benji Durden, Bill Rogers, and Ron Tabb share their timeless wisdom on marathon training and inspire listeners with their wealth of experience. These champions continue to impact the running world today. Now, let's pass the mic to your MC, Letty Lundquist, to kick off this journey of enduring inspiration.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Marathon Champions podcast, the podcast with Benji Durden, Ron Tabb, and Bill Rogers. This is part 2 of Talking with the Dillons, so please sit back and enjoy.
We got Boston coming up here in about 12 weeks. And so what was everyone's preparation like before Boston?
Well, we were just talking about it, racing.
Yeah.
Jacksonville. I went to
But was there taper?
May.
I mean, what did your taper look like, say, the week before Boston?
The week before Boston. Oh,
Yeah.
I still do 100 miles. Easy, you know. Track workout.
When would be your last hard workout? Wednesday, Thursday?
Probably Wednesday.
Yeah. Bill, how about
Thursday, Wednesday and Thursday, those 2 days.
Right before
And then Friday, Saturday I would do something. I didn't take any days off, really. It drove me nuts to take days off.
Oh, I'm with you. I didn't either.
Yeah.
I didn't believe in taking days off.
Billy would. Now you've won Boston and set records 4 times. You're the one to ask. What the heck did you do? What?
I was lucky moving to Boston and everything and getting back to running because I had quit running for about a year and a half. I graduated college type thing and moved to Boston. I don't know where I'm at, but fortunately I got back in a running variety of circumstances. But anyway, I would, about 5 days before the marathon, I would do some 400s, like eight or nine 400s on the road, not killing myself, just pushing myself a bit. And then
70 second pace.
Yeah, something like that, whatever, always, but I'd run 3 miles the day before, but the week before, I think I probably did 100 miles or something. We all kind of trained right up to our marathons because exercise science wasn't as developed as it is now. We were really kind of the pioneer athletes, I think. Wouldn't you say, Ron?
Yeah, absolutely.
Patty,
Oh, yeah. I would do 100 miles the week of a marathon. I mean, it was just.
But no one does that today, I don't think.
No,
No, Dana Caster did. 88 Olympics, 92 Olympics. She was still doing 110 miles a week.
Really?
Yeah. Leading up.
Wow.
Yeah, and she said it was only because she did it more for her head. She didn't want to disrupt her schedule.
You kind of get into a routine. I mean,
I think it was 96 Olympics.
96. Okay.
Because it was back in Athens.
Yes, that interview.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. It was that interview I read.
Was the winner
2004.
because I cut way back the week of the marathon, though I did something that a lot of people would think is crazy. I would go out and do a hour and a half to 2 hours on Wednesday, but it was a slow.
I would do that. That's what I did.
The same week of the marathon?
Yeah.
If it was a Sunday marathon, I would do an hour and a half to 2 hours on Wednesday.
I did
or
that.
Thursday if it was Boston, because it was the timing.
I would do it Wednesday. Thursday would be like the quarters that Billy was talking about.
Yeah, I didn't do any.
Just
I did
turnover.
Maybe on Monday or Tuesday I would do like the quarters Billy talked about. The thing about the 2 hour run or the hour and a half run is I bet we had glycogen depletion is something people were talking about. You do a depletion diet. You just eat protein and fats for like 3 days, and then you'd really load up on the carbohydrates. Well, I did that a couple times. I did that actually before the 77 Boston. I ran like crap. And I decided
I was going to say, it never worked for me.
No, it didn't work for me.
Well, it doesn't work
for
for some people. For some people, you don't actually recover from that depletion that quickly. And so at 78, by accident, I was in Honolulu, and Honolulu Marathon, it was never. I mean, you won it a lot of times, Patty, but we never really took it too seriously.
No.
And so I was staying out in Hawaii Kai, and I wanted to go over and see the North Shore. So I jogged over to see the North Shore and jogged back. It ended up being like an hour and 45 minutes of running. And I ran really well at that race. And it was sort of, And I got back and talked to Dr. Dave Martin, and he said, yeah, well, you did a glycogen depletion. And so after that, that was my pattern. I did a physical depletion as opposed to diet depletion, and then did my carbohydrate loading. And so that was, but I never ran that many 100-mile weeks in my career. I was mostly 85 to 95 because my easy days were really easy. If I didn't take really easy days, I didn't recover. And it's just, my individual difference.
Also, you wore so many sweats, and so
which is probably part of it.
So much, you lost a lot of your electrolytes, and for those to be restored, you're to be down a lot lower than somebody who was running the same amount of miles but not sweating as much.
I tried it before I put on the sweats, back in 75, 76. I tried doing mileage, and I was always kind of flat.
Ron, you were 100+ mile a week guy, right?
I did a lot of 100. Yeah, I typically, like 1 year before Boston, I remember doing a 20-miler 7 to 8 days before, and it was an hour and 50-minute run. So basically 5:30 pace. I ran well. Dan, you were in Eugene at the same time, so Quacks didn't want Charles Allen. He didn't want Allen running with me because I did set. My workouts were so hard.
Yeah,
you ran hard.
There were. I think a lot of the guys that were training for marathons at that time ran their most of their 2-hour runs close to threshold. Like I used to train with Seth was coaching Dave Gordon, and at the time I loved running a 2-hour run. But when I went out with Dave Gordon, I mean, that guy was hammering me, and he ran some really
hard runs. We were doing 5:30, 5:20 pace. My favorite distance really became 17 miles, and on those 17-mile runs that was my Sunday run. A lot of times I'd be doing sub 5-minute pace in the middle of that run.
Yeah.
So,
and I tried all that early on in my career, and I found that by the time I got to races, I was flat. So my long runs were 6:30 to 7-minute pace. Of course, like Benji said, I also was wearing a lot of sweat, so I was carrying a good bit of weight as I was doing it.
I just never ran that slow.
And I was running on dirt roads and trails in Georgia, so a lot of the time it was muddy surfaces. So that was another factor in why I didn't run all that hard. But again, for me, it was learning to burn fat, not because I had plenty of, I ran a race almost every weekend, so I had plenty of race prep, speed prep.
Well, a lot of that, talking about training in Eugene, talking about and doing these long runs. Remember, it's 45, 55 degrees there. So it was a lot easier to go out and run fast and hard as opposed to where you are in Georgia, where it's going to be 90 degrees and is 100% humidity. It's pretty hard to do a hard workout when the conditions are like that.
And I was running my long runs virtually always by myself, except for a period in late 79 and early 80 when Dick Berkeley and I ran together.
So Bill, when you were training, I know you went down to Arizona during the winters to get away from the cold up here. But when you were down in Arizona, you're getting ready for Boston. I know you had a lot of races going on, but what kind of pace were you doing for your long runs? Kind of pacing?
Most of my marathoning career, I was training here. I didn't move to Arizona until I don't know if it was before 1980. I remember going down to Florida. I actually trained in Florida for about a month before I was thinking the Olympic trials, as we all know, the boycott and everything. And I remember because I was given a chance to have a hotel room by Pepsi. I used to run the Pepsi Challenge races.
Yeah.
So I had a little deal with them. They let me use a room down there in Boca Raton. And I remember doing a 20-miler on a hot day in March down there or something and everything. But mainly in Phoenix. When I was in Phoenix, I was a little older, but a lot of runners started going to Arizona. Tom Fleming, my good friend, John Gregor came out there. I think Bruce Bickford came out there. And but we weren't up in Flagstaff. Today all the runners are up at altitude. We were still the sea level thing, you know. But I wasn't a heat runner. I think Benji, I think you did the equivalent of altitude training by training in such heat and humidity.
Physiologically, it's the same or close to the same. The body produces similar effects by being hot. Boyle's law basically talks about, if you raise the temperature or lower the pressure, you get basically the same effect of a gaseous dilution into a liquid. It's not quite the same going into blood, but it has similar effects.
So Benji, did you run? What age did you begin running, or what age did you begin living in Georgia and becoming accustomed to the heat and humidity?
Well, I started running in California in 75, or I would say 65.
Okay.
I actually in 64 I pole vaulted.
You're crazy.
In 65 I became a track athlete because the pole vault was just too dangerous. But I moved my sophomore year to Georgia, and so I really, heat didn't become a factor for me until I became a road racer in the mid 70s. Up to that point, I was a so-so track runner. I was good enough to make the University of Georgia track team, cross country team. I did well for Georgia, but I never made it past the SEC meet. And my best mile in college was 4:15. So I was good, but not nationally.
Good. I mean, Patty and Dan, Ron, Benji, do you think, the mental side of our running, what you think you can do? And Patty, of course, your story of reading the book by the great physiologist. He actually worked for the Air Force, interestingly, Dan and Benji. He's famous, and I can't remember his name now. I've met the fella. He's down in Dallas, Texas now. He's got
Ken Cooper?
Ken Cooper.
Ken Cooper.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the reason I started running.
Yes. And interesting, they used an Air Force guy, Dan and Benji. So it's a small world. And because he did his research based on, I think, on Air Force people. And
among others.
But do you think part of the sport is, if you think you can do it, it's like the spider going up the water spout, keep trying and everything. There's such a huge part to that in our sport. And there's some people who have great talent, but they lost their interest in the sport for a variety of reasons. But I think, Patty, I think all of us were surprised in a way to suddenly do well or something after not doing well. Would you say that that's true?
Oh, yeah, I think it's very true. I was never really good at anything. I wasn't
So was
really
I.
Even in school, I hated school. I went to parochial school. It was awful. Running, when I chose to run that first day, it was the first time I ever gave myself a chance. And I wasn't looking for, I didn't know about racing or anything like that. I just wanted to feel good. And something so hard, it made me look so bad, but I felt so good. It was a win-win. It was a win for me. And it took me weeks to try a second run. And I was so sore, and I missed a few more weeks. But the feeling of I don't know, if I keep, happiness or joy, yeah, but it was just, I could sink my teeth into it. It was very real, and I wanted it. And if I had to run, I was gonna run. And then it got to the point where it took me 2 years to quit smoking. And it was only because I had been asking questions along the way. Oh, what can I do to get faster? And somebody said, oh, push-ups, do sit-ups. I go, okay. So I would do push-ups and sit-ups. And then it came down to, again, I would ask more questions. What else can I do? You shouldn't eat so much junk, and I was like, huh? At that time, my teeth were loose. I thought I was going to lose my teeth. I did have my gums operated on, but my teeth were loose. And so, so I asked a question. I said, what else can I do? I said, I do this, I do that. What else can I do? And they said, quit smoking. And I didn't know that people knew that it was I smoked.
Who told you that, Patty? Who told
Joe.
you? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know because I didn't smoke around him. I smoked at work. I smoked around everywhere else, but not around him.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, what else can I do? And he said, well, you should quit smoking. And I was shocked. That he knew I was smoking, and I didn't know. Well, you smell now that I don't smoke. I mean, you can smell it,
Yeah.
And so I did. It was a very hard decision. I took my pack of cigarettes and went upstairs to the attic where I was living, and I opened the window, and I sat there, and I thought about it.
We have
As
a
I
kitty
smoked.
making a presence.
No.
now.
Yeah, getting photobombed here.
Oh, is that Casey?
Casey. No,
Oh, that's Brad.
Bradley.
So I thought about it, and then I decided, okay, I'll quit. I want to get faster. And I did.
But she was already winning marathons while she was smoking.
Yeah.
So.
And it's,
Oh.
I think people find it interesting how many people smoked back at the time.
Oh, they
Ron
did.
Hill, I ran a race with Ron Hill. We finished the race and he lit up. Mikhail Jazzy, when he set the world indoor mile record, he lit up right after the race. Herb Elliott, not Herb Elliott.
It's the best
Herb
tasting
Elliott.
cigarette.
Yeah, he went to
Herb
work for
Elliott,
the tobacco
unbelievable.
company.
Tell you, it's the best tasting cigarette after a hard run.
Oh,
my
I don't
God.
know why.
You're still addicted a bit,
Well, yeah, but it's so delicious. It's so
Yeah.
delicious. Isn't that awful?
I hate cigarettes.
I know you don't like it. You don't like
Oh,
tasting
my
smoke.
gosh.
You don't like being around it. But as a person who, I mean, I've been smoking since like the 6th, 7th grade.
Do you still smoke?
No,
Oh, I was gonna say.
no.
So that's interesting because you smoke, Bill smoked, and Letty, the lady who's hosting it, she was a smoker also. So that's
And
crazy.
she's
Benji,
younger than we are.
now she's in her 40s. Yeah, she's a lot
Well,
younger.
that's still younger than us. That's like, wow. I'm surprised that age they even smoked. I mean, a lot of people that my daughter know, they vape. They do the vapor,
Okay.
Vipers, yeah.
They do.
Benji, you never smoked.
No,
Benji, you
although
never
I got a lot
smoked.
of secondhand smoke. Both my
Well, we all
parents
got
smoked.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I actually
And you-
smoked marijuana 3 times, and I decided, this is just stupid.
Your parents smoked.
My parents smoked. We had five of us kids in that station wagon. We were
Oh.
hotboxing all the way from
Yeah,
Alaska to
yeah,
across
yeah,
the
yeah.
country. It was
Well, a lot of military at that time smoked. I don't know if I knew anybody in the military that didn't.
yeah.
Yeah,
My
my father was
parents-
military. My father was in the
Well,
Navy.
But I think, like I said before, I ran from age like 12 to 16, 17, whatever, before I realized that it was a sport, a competitive sport. So it wasn't until I got down to Massachusetts. But I mean, the smoking was part of my altitude training, I suppose. Being in a station wagon, with no air to breathe, I was probably holding my breath because I hated it too.
Oh,
So-
so we were coming back. It was my senior year in high school. We were coming back from state track meet, and our coach in the van, he's lighting up a stogie. He's smoking a stogie.
That's funny.
I mean, I don't even think you can do that.
Oh,
In fact, I know you can't. And college coaches, high school coaches, you can't smoke in front of your student athletes now.
Yeah, my college coach, Spec Towns, was a big smoker, and he eventually died of lung cancer.
Jeez.
Oh, Norm Levine,
Not
Billy,
really.
Norm Levine, Brandeis
Norm?
University.
Yeah.
He
He
smoked.
smoked. He smoked the cigars.
Oh, the Tipperellos or something.
It stunk.
You
He
can
stunk.
smoke. I like cigars even to this day. I mean, but I don't inhale. But I think
I like the smell of a cigar. I don't like
Yeah.
the taste of it.
My grandfather in Georgia grew tobacco, and I hated tobacco. You've ever seen how it's grown, how it's harvested, and how it's cured. I mean, it's a nasty leaf. It's just plain nasty.
We, my wife and I, we were in Paris some years ago, and I'd always had this curiosity for Cubans. Why are Cuban cigars illegal? So we stopped and bought a Cuban cigar. I got so stoned on. I mean, it just kicked my ass. It's just like, whoa. So this is what the deal is with smoking. So yeah, I'm not a smoker. I didn't like the way it kicked my butt. I'll drink my beer. I like my beer, but
What about hard liquor?
I'll
Anyway,
do-
I like everything. Beer, gin, or rum, whatever.
I like my
You know what?
Jägermeister when I'm in Germany.
Yeah.
Oh,
Patty and
My advice-
I went through a phase this winter where it was the Fireball and the fall.
oh, that tastes like
apple
a
and Fireball. That
tastes
shouldn't even count.
like candy.
Yeah.
We did that. Was it during the summer we did it?
It was fall.
I had bought my daughter was living with us, all through college and until she got married, and she liked. I still have it in the refrigerator. Vodka. I still have that in there, and she left a thing of Fireball, and I worked at the liquor store, and in front of our house, we live on a state highway, but there's nobody around us. And in the morning, sometimes, like over the weekend, we'd find these Fireball plastic bottles, and I never knew what they were or anything. And it's like, I don't know why people like this. It's whiskey. I'm not going to touch that stuff. Well, lo and behold,
Yeah, we discovered it.
discovered it. I said,
Yeah.
I'm going to open this. So I
What is
did,
it?
because I like Angry Orchard beer. And so
Oh,
I
it's a
said,
combination.
this
It's a
tastes good. So, but you have to be careful, because if you have too many of them,
They sneak up. They sneak up. Yeah.
Patty and Dan.
so yeah, we don't do that anymore. But we do wine.
I like wine too. Patty and
Yeah,
Dan.
I like wine. But we haven't had wine since for a while.
We've been doing, my wife and I, we do, I just discovered this, but it's Prosecco. And we started doing that in Italy.
Wine, the
And
table wine.
it's kind of like, I think it's probably like champagne. Yeah, it's really
Very good.
tasty. Yeah, it has lower calories, but we don't do that very often either. But yeah, we got into doing that in Italy. And
I guess if you go away to nice places like that, you would have the flavor. I would.
Yeah.
I would.
When I was in France, I wanted French wine. When I was in Italy, I wanted Italian wine.
Yeah.
I'm going to do while I'm here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe
I never really got into alcohol. I tried a little, but but the crazy thing is, for a number of years, Amy and I actually brewed beer. We didn't like beer. We didn't drink the beer.
You
we
did
brewed
it?
the beer.
There
was a brewery,
Yeah.
a place you could go
I
and,
lived with a
and
family who brewed
make the beer
wine.
right near us, and we'd make up cases of beer, and then we'd take it into Yellowstone in the winter and give it to the people that worked there, because we knew a lot of them and they loved their beer.
Oh,
Wow.
that's so nice.
But I never really got into it. It just always kind of smelled off to me. It smelled like something that was spoiled.
Well, yeah, you got to be careful because it can stink.
Yeah. You know who was really good at brewing was, I don't know if you guys knew Charlie Spedding very well.
Oh,
Charlie
I
was
know
great.
Charlie.
Yeah. So Charlie for a couple of years, he was living around the Boston area, and I trained with him all the time because I was living out in West Newton with the Darien. And on my harder days, I'd go train with Charlie. On all my easy days, like 5 days a week, I'd be training with Tom. But I'd go out with the Charlie, and we would pound. I knew he was destined for greatness because he trained so hard, but he never really put it together in a race until the later part of his career, when he started winning London and then going to the Olympics and bronze medal and that sort of thing. He just kind of all started falling together for him. But he had been training hard without a breakthrough for so many years. I felt so happy for the guy.
It was astounding to see him take that medal, Danny. I remember training with him a little bit too, and I thought he was a very good runner, but you're right, he didn't win races. He took everyone by surprise, but I later read more about him. He was Mr. Steady.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't, I don't think he overdid his training. He didn't break down. He was just very smart in his own way. And he had really good running form, you know,
Yeah, he
and,
did.
and he
Yeah.
wasn't intimidated by any other runners from anywhere, you know. He just was his own man, his own runner, and what a race that was in '84, you know, unbelievable.
Yeah, he was a great beer maker too. Because I used to go to his house sometimes after we'd have our run, and he'd put the pot on the stove and start brewing it. So he had a roommate. I think what her name was, Star or something like that. But the two of them together, they made some great brews.
You follow him on YouTube.
So that was his secret.
Yeah. Yeah, I still follow Charlie on LinkedIn and YouTube and some of those places. Every once in a while, we'll pop in and chat.
I know his dad was a pharmacist, and he was toying with the idea of going into the business, but I don't think he ever did.
He is. He's a physician. He's a medical doctor. If you look at some of if you just do Charlie Spedding YouTube videos, he pretty much is a nutritionist. He helps people with their metabolic problems, metabolic issues. So yeah.
That's three marathoners I know that became physicians. Sandoval being a cardiologist, Hilo Ebba, I can't remember what his specialty is, but he's a doc out in LA, and now Charlie.
Kempinen. Remember Kempinen?
Yeah, Bob Kempinen.
Oh, yeah, Kempinen. Yeah, he's another one.
Yeah.
Cross country in college, I think.
As well as won the Olympic trials after puking. Olympic marathon trials.
Ben True, who did cross country skiing, you know, as well.
He's a doctor?
Ben True isn't the doctor, but he did cross country skiing as a background.
Skiing.
Yeah.
Anyone here ever do cross country skiing? I am from Newington, Connecticut. It's pretty flat. I never skied in my life, and I don't know.
No, it's not enough snow, but I did do snowshoeing.
We have Patty. Patty actually has a national medal. She's got a bronze medal from national snowshoe championships. So she's an interesting story. She had never raced in snowshoes until about 3 weeks or 4 weeks before the championship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to qualify.
We had those really crummy like LL Bean big heavy plastic snowshoes, and Patty and I used to go out behind the house here. We've got all this wide open area where we can go, acres and acres. We can go hours out in the fields in the woods, and just, for hiking and snowshoeing and cross country skiing and that sort of thing. We have some big flat fields. So we did that, but somehow Patty, she found out about that, the fact that there was cross country, there was
snowshoes. I went to buy snowshoes, and it was on the computer. It was like 2 a.m, and I wanted better snowshoes, not the shoes that we were wearing. So I just started Googling, and I came across these Heather Arrowhead or Dion snowshoes. And so I sent emails to both. Dion got right back to me, and he asked me, I asked him, about the snowshoes, how much they were and how much was shipping and all this. And he asked me, he said, "Are you Dan Dillon's wife?" I'm like, wow. And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Oh," and I said, "Yes, I used to be so-and-so." And he went, "Oh, and you want snowshoes?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And he says, "Well, tell me about, are you running or what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, it's too messy to run in the road. It's slushy. I don't want to get out there. So, but I want a better pair of snowshoes." And he said, "Nationals are coming up, and they're in Vermont. And why don't you qualify? You have to qualify. Why don't you qualify?" So I was like, "I don't know." So he sent me the shoe. I said, the part of the conversation before all of that was, is this going to take, how long is this going to take? A month before I get these shoes? Because the snow's going to be gone. I need them now. So he says, "No, I'll ship them to you." And I said, "Oh, okay." So I get them like on a Thursday or Wednesday or a Thursday. Trials to qualify for the team is in Saturday in Vermont. So I go, I qualify. And then he says, "Well, you're going to go to nationals. It's like two weeks." And I was like, "I don't know." But I was pretty beat up. It's a 10K, and I was beat. I hated it. It was awful. I got blistered. My feet were torn apart. It was like almost an hour, and it was the worst experience I could ever have.
Well, the courses that he used too. This guy would lay his courses out on those ski slopes up there. So you're going up, you're weaving, switchbacking up and down the ski slopes. So it's like he went out of his way to make these courses really, really difficult.
Well, that was what you tried to do. I mean, we timed.
Yeah, I did it.
Snowshoe races, and that's what they did.
That's what we did. That's what they do, and it was horrible. So for 2 weeks prior, my daughter was here, and I was just hemming and hawing. I said, I don't know if I should do it. I don't know if I should do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And then I looked at her and I said, would you come with me? And she said, yeah, I'll go with you. And so I get there, I pick up my number. It's like a couple-hour drive. And I get back to my car, and I'm like, I don't think I can do it. Because, it's so hard. I hadn't fully recovered from to qualify. I have not been in that depth of wherever you go for so long, and to go there and set up house, I wasn't ready. So she said, Mom, you really don't have to do it if you don't want to. And I said, no, I really have to do it. I'm not going to be able to live with myself. So I did it. It was awful. Absolutely awful. But I finished third.
Oh, what are snowshoes? What do they look like? Are they like racquetball?
No, they're aluminum. There's an aluminum frame, and they look like you can run in them. That they're running snowshoes, and so
they make a range of them. That you have huge ones for just hiking, down to these things that are barely bigger than your shoe, depending on the conditions.
Right.
The ones you're going to race in are going to be really light. So they're going to they're the ones that Benji's talking about that are barely bigger than your shoe. They're good. They're probably about twice the size of your shoe.
Yeah.
And
you're doing a lot of you're really raising your legs, I'm assuming, just because
a lot depends on the nature of the snow, the kind of snow you're running in, the kind of course you're running on.
And
so you're not shuffling. You're not shuffling.
No, you're running.
No, as a matter of fact, you probably have to lift your knees higher, because even though the idea is for the snowshoe to keep your foot above the snow, you're going to sink down somewhat. So as you're pulling yourself out, especially if you got some forward motion, you're dragging snow with you on the top of the snowshoes as well. So you're using higher knees than you would.
Oh, your legs are going to be dead.
Oh, yeah. I was dead.
Oh, your legs
I cried. I finished. I finished. And my daughter comes over and I said, get me out of here. Get me out of here. And I was walking and I'm holding on to her. And, she's like 6 foot tall, and she's, big woman. And so she's holding me like this. And I said, just get me out of here. I want to go to the car. So all I did was cry. That's all I did. But I was so happy I got a medal.
So your second event ever doing this, and you medal? That's amazing.
That is, yeah.
Oh, but it was awful. I don't know how I lived. I was so mad. All I did. That?
Huh? Have you retired from that?
Oh, yes, I haven't. No. I'm never do it again.
We haven't had enough snow lately.
Yeah.
The snow in New England's been terrible.
All I did, Ron, was swear. Every tree I hit, I pushed off a tree and I swore. And then, if people are behind you, you have to step off the course to let them pass you.
Wow. Hey, is this an Olympic event? If it's
no, they definitely no shoes haven't.
No, it should be though. I'll tell you, it's grueling.
It certainly could be. Let me tell you about my last snowshoe race.
Oh yeah,
they had one up in Leadville, so we're 10,000 feet.
Oh, God.
So right there, you're at a disadvantage. And this was an off-track, off-beat 10K is what they called it. And the way they laid it out is they would go out and they'd put these, flags along the course. But you couldn't run where they laid out the course. You had to run in the deep snow. And the snow was 3 to 6 feet deep.
Oh, no.
So, you could, if you were a leader, you're breaking trail the whole time.
That's powder snow up there.
One time, my leg went all the way up to my hip. I stepped in the snow.
So I was not that fit. I was probably at the time 33 to 35 minute 10K up here. And the leader was probably 30 to 29 minute 10K, somewhere in that range. But I could stay within a couple minutes of him because he was breaking trail and I was following, in his trail. You could follow the guy.
Right. Oh,
I got done and I was about 3 minutes behind him and I was pretty close to last. I could not stand up. I could not stand up for a half hour. That is the hardest thing I have ever done.
Thank you.
I could hardly breathe. I was just so exhausted.
Couldn't breathe. My psoas, everything was sore. I couldn't straighten up. My feet were badly blistered. It was just, and I'm crying and I'm rocking in the car, like trying to soothe myself.
Yeah, it's a very, very challenging sport. Now they do some where it's basically groomed trail. It's, if at most you're 3 to 4 inches of snow and you've got these, you're basically just, you got a tennis rack, or not even that, a ping pong racket on your foot. That's about the size of the snowshoe, and you're just running over very light snow. And those aren't that challenging. Those are just running in the cold.
I'm glad I did it. I lived through it. It filled my bucket. I never have to do it again.
We hope that you enjoyed what you heard. And if you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe and share. And your support means everything. And until next time, embrace the journey and take care. Happy listening.